Hey everybody, this is Josh from Buddyfight Dunedin. Today I am bringing you the first look at the physical cards for Purgatory Knights. This is my Purgatory Knight deck and I'll show you what we've got going on. So the Buddy is Demio's Sword. He's basically the main part of this deck really. So he gets the Buddy spot for that. Yeah, alright, so let's begin. So first I have 4 copies of Purgatory Knights Knuckle Duster Dragon. He's size 0, and he cannot be called unless you have a Purgatory Knight on the field, which is fine. So ideally the way you want to do it is probably call him to the centre, and you can call the size 1 to the side and Purgatory Demios to the other side, and you can retire both of them and let Demios attack 3 times. Next is Purgatory Knights Iron Gird Dragon, so there's 4 copies of that. So he's got his decent stats, just vanilla, but you want something with decent-ish stats and 2 crit preferably. Yeah, so 4 copies of him. And I'm running 2 copies of the promo Purgatory Knights Troubadour Dragon, so he's got really good stats. But he can't be called to the centre, but that's not a big deal either. 4 copies of Purgatory Knights Black Knight Dragon, just another 2 crit size 1, much pressure as you can. 1 copy of Purgatory Knights. Now, I'm pretty sure that was meant to be Halberd, but it changed to Halbert Dragon. He's just a mover. Decent stats though, which is good. 4 copies of my Buddy, obviously. So if you don't know what he does, when you can retire another Purgatory Knight on your field and stand him again, so you can attack up to 3 times. So yeah, he's really good. Good for pressure. He's got a good amount of power, decent amount of crit, and yeah, it's good. And then one copy of Purgatory Knights Blood Axe Dragon. He's just for the 3 crit. It's ideally you don't really want any other size 2s, but sometimes that happens, so yeah. Moving on, I then run 3 copies of Purgatory Knight Sword, Purgatory Sword Fatal. So it's a 4k power 2 crit weapon. Equipment cost is 1, and when one of your monsters is destroyed on your field, for this turn it gets +1 crit, but you can only do it once, so it can only get to a maximum of 3, so you can't like stack it like crazy. Right, moving on to spells. Now, this is kind of a placeholder at the moment, but it still works. It's Black Revenger, so you can only do it if you've got 5 life or less, and pay 1 gauge, choose up to a size 1 and a size 2 from a drop zone, put them in your hand, so you can get like Demios back in a size 1. There is a better one that you pay 1 life and 1 gauge, and you can get any 2 Purgatory Knights from your drop zone, which is more useful because you are running 0s in this deck. But yeah, it's a double R and it's quite expensive, so this is a better replacement until I pull those. Then I run 3 copies of Life That Dwells in the Flames of Hades 2. So this is basically your draw engine, so whenever you take damage, if you've got a Purgatory Knight in the field, you can play this when you take damage and you draw a card, which isn't really worthwhile. But if you've got a Purgatory Knight on your field and you play this, you get to draw 2 cards. So it's a little bit like Nice One or your World equivalent, but just requires you to be hit. Then I run 1 copy of the promo Arise Knights of the Blood Oath. So this is just a monster searcher from the deck. It's pretty costy, so that's why I've only got 1. It's pay 2 gauge, and you need to destroy a monster on your field as well. But yeah, it's just if you really need to get like Demios or something like that, that's what it's for. 4 copies of Black Dragon Shield. That's fairly standard. I mean, your centre's going to be open most of the time, so you need to be able to defend yourself after you aggro, especially since you're killing your monsters. 3 copies of Crush That Body and Sustain Mine. So this is kind of a combination between Glory Seeker and Thunder Formation. So you can set it, and it's completely free. And every time a monster is destroyed, by an ability, by an effect, you gain a gauge off the top of your deck, and then it's got the Glory Seeker effect where when your life is 0, you discard this card from the field, and you flip over the top card of your deck, and if it's a spell, you gain 2 life. So yeah, really, really handy. It goes off quite frequently because you run a lot of spells, so it's pretty good, and it's completely free, so there's absolutely no reason you wouldn't use that. I then run 2 copies of Abyss Symphony. This is obviously just another draw power card. 1 gauge, you can only use it 6 or less life, and you draw 2 cards, so yeah, that's fine. I mean, I do prefer this one, but both of them have their ups and downs, so yeah. 4 copies of Midnight Shadow. So this is just your standard nullify, as long as it's not a link attack. So you can use this to guard Demios. The good thing is, although it can't stop link attacks, most of the time you're using these to protect your monsters, not yourself. So, and people aren't going to link attack Demios because he's only got 3k defense, so yeah, you're not going to bother with that. Purgatory Flame that resides within the body, so there's 2 copies of that. So this is another nullify, it's a new one, so you can only cast it on your opponent's turn, obviously. Cast cost is 2 gauge, and counter destroy a monster with Purgatory Knights in its card name on your field if you do nullify the attack and deal damage to your opponent equal to the critical of the card destroyed. So yeah, so what you do is that they attack you, you pay 2 gauge, choose a monster on like your side, and it gets destroyed, it stops their attack even if it's a link attack, and then you deal damage to them based on the monster's crit. So if you happen to have this one with 3 crit on the field, you'd smack them for 3, and I'll show you in a wee bit the combo that can potentially happen. 4 copies of Death Grip. So this is a cast cost, pay 1 gauge, counter destroy a size 2 or less monster on the field. Really, really good, so handy. Yeah, it's really, really good, does the job. Obviously it doesn't work against like your Sega matchups, but just about everything else it works pretty well. Dark Energy, 2 copies. So this is a pay 1 gauge when one of your monsters would be, or one or more of your monsters would be destroyed. You can choose one of those monsters and you stop its destruction, and then it gets counter attack. So this is just a keep Demios alive card, basically. Or really desperate, keep your centre alive, if that happens to be the case. And finally, one copy of Purgatory Hymn, the Curse of the Faraway Homeland. So this is a set spell that basically, when you have a Purgatory Knight on the field, the opponent's monster in the centre gets 2,000 less defense. Good against your Sega matchups and things like that, because big walled opponents are really, really hard to deal with a lot of the time. I mean, this is a rush deck, so you want their centre to be open, and if they get something like Seeger out, you really need it to be weaker so your other monsters can hit it. And then finally, the last card of the deck is the Impact, which is Distortion Punisher. So this card's pretty cool. You have to pay 4 gauge, and then you can cast one of the following things. And obviously, your opponent has to be at 4 or less life, and you and your opponent can't have anything in the centre. And the ability is counter final. So if they so you can just play it like a normal Impact, pay 4 gauge, as long as their centre's open and your centre's open, you deal 4 damage and win. Or you can do a counter final, which is during your opponent's final phase, you can use this ability when your opponent casts an Impact and deal 4 damage. So yeah, it's basically when you can use it to respond to an Impact they're playing and kill them, provided they are on 4 health. So yeah, it's really good. Now you might be wondering what the point of counter final will be. Like, why wouldn't you just kill them in the first place instead of waiting for them to use theirs? So the way that it basically works is, well, there's two really cool ways. I'll just show you the basic setup. But anyway, if you imagine that it's your opponent's turn, and you might have a couple of monsters on the field. If they hit you, and you've still got, Purgatory Knights on the field, you might play this and draw 2 cards, which you might draw into your impact, because you might not have already had it. So now you've got your impact, but your opponent still has 6 health. So what you need to do is get them to 4, so you can protect yourself with this. So then, when they attack again, you can play this. Destroy one of your monsters, and you're likely to kill pretty much all the monsters in here have at least 2 crit. So you destroy one of your monsters, drop them down by 2, and suddenly they're within the threshold for your impact to go off. So now they basically have to gamble whether or not it's worth playing their impact to kill you or risk getting killed. Obviously you need the gauge, but the thing is most of these cards don't use gauge. Some of the spells do, but you don't always need to use them. It's kind of you know, you can use it if you need to, otherwise you don't need to worry about it. And also this helps build your gauge up really easy, because I mean Demios is free. Yeah, it's not very gauge heavy, so you're usually well set up, and yeah. So that's basically it. The other thing also that's quite brutal is if you have the full field, which is Demios, a size 0 and a size 1, and you have this set on the field. Obviously if you played this on your first turn, you would have 3 gauge already, and then obviously when you attack with these, and then attack with Demios, and then retire this stand, you get another gauge, so you'll already be at 4. Then obviously you retire this again, hit again. If you've got your impact, you've got more than enough gauge for it, and you've probably killed their centre, so you can go for the kill very, very easily. So getting the gauge for this is really, really simple. It's pretty rude. Obviously I'm looking forward to giving this a really good test, because it's only just arrived. But yeah, hope you enjoy. If you have any questions or anything like that, or suggestions, just let me know down below. Thank you guys. See ya.